Hey everyone, welcome to episode 1 of the Moto Safari Chronicles. We have our good friend Benjamin in the studio.
Thanks, Wes. Excited to be here and unpack some of the trip.
To give you guys some background on Moto Safari, so we've been around for 10 years and we curate bespoke motorcycle journeys across the world. And what really differentiates us at Moto Safari is that no two of our journeys are alike, starting from the name, to the individual branding that we do, the routes that we provide. So coming on a Moto Safari journey, you'll know that every trip we do is curated on a once-off basis, which really gives it a unique, experience compared to having sort of a cookie cutter trip that's the same each time. And that's kind of how we position ourselves in the market, because obviously picking a motorcycle trip, that you have a boatload of options, but we're really trying to, find our niche and curate unique experiences for our riders. Today we really want to talk about our Namibia trip, which is called Dauris, the Burning Mountain. So Dauris basically means burning mountain in Damara, which is one of our indigenous languages of Namibia. Namibia is where I grew up and where I come from. So this journey is special to me in more ways than one, and it's really one that's close to my heart. And the most recent journey we had was also really cool, as it involved a lot of my close friends and, old customers, new customers, but mostly close friends of ours. So yeah, I think we want to deep dive a little bit into the trip and, talk about the highs and lows and what we all experienced and, what went down kind of thing. So I think I'll kind of just start talking about day one. We arrive in Walvis Bay, which is sort of the main port city and coastal city of Namibia. And, riders sort of trickle in. Guys are coming from all over the world. Ben raw dogged like a 45-hour trip in economy.
Yeah.
But
in the middle seat of 4.
Yeah, sort of scrunched up between everyone like that. But, I always say this about Ben. You could call him up at 3 a.m. in the morning and ask him if he wants to go ride motorcycles, and he'll say yes. So being in a 45-hour economy trip around the world is no big deal to him. And anyway, so yeah, we had a bunch of people come from all over the world. Day one, we start in Walvis Bay, and once everyone is sort of slept off their jet lag barely, because you only get a few hours sleep on day one. But we get to see our motorcycles, which in Namibia is our fleet of KTM 500s, all late model bikes. And yeah, day one, was a cool experience, especially for some of our riders that had never been in the dunes before. We just sort of got on the bikes, we rode around along Long Beach for a little bit, and then we hopped straight into the dunes, like no no training wheels kind of thing. So
yeah, no warm up, just barely getting used to the bike.
Yeah,
starting to get the feel, and then you jump into the gnarliest dunes in the world that most people hadn't even experienced, anything like it. So it's a good way to just warm up and jump into it.
Yeah, so how did you feel spooked, like being straight in the dunes, or?
Yeah, the dunes, honestly, the one word that really kept coming to mind is just humbling. And it's seriously, you're even just to back up, you get the kind of giddy edge of everyone showing up, and, you meet some people or see some old friends that you haven't seen in a while, because one of the cool things is that people just keep coming back, like myself. But and then getting to see the bikes and kind of make sure everything's adjusted as much as you can before you even hop on. And then it's you ride through town, and I was like, oh, right, we got to ride on the left here. Okay, it's good.
Keep left.
Good. Yeah, glad somebody said that at the beginning of the ride. So, and then literally 2 miles down the road, we jump into the dunes, and it's just whoa, okay, we're surfing now.
Yeah, and these are obviously some of the world's most famous dunes. That's where they do a lot of the Dakar training, as we saw when the Dakar guys were there. And riding in the dunes is it's kind of a hard experience to quantify if you've never done it. Even if you've ridden dirt bikes your whole life, or if you're new to riding dirt bikes, if you get into the dunes, it's a whole different ball game. You got to stay on the gas, and you have to read the lines of the dunes. You have to know, because a dune could just be a sudden drop off. There could be holes in the dunes,
And it's not the same as all regular sand.
Yeah, it's not.
Like I've ridden in sand a lot, ridden in the desert, and it's like unique. It's all blown in from the wind, so it's just like super fine, super granular.
And then you have the different surface levels. When after you've ridden for a while, you can sort of tell when it's a bit darker. Then these are the harder sections. I know I make it sound like we're just being cowboys in the dunes, but obviously we're not. We do still take safety seriously, and we keep the riders in single file, and till everyone sort of gets a hang of it. A few of us dropped our bikes in the dunes, but of course it was nothing crazy. And also, getting stuck in the dunes, have to wiggle your bike out instead of just being on the gas and digging it in deeper.
Yeah, definitely learning stuff right off the bat, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Especially for someone that's, been riding for a long time and picking up little tricks right away, like starting in second gear and shifting to third immediately, like just things like that make all the difference.
Yeah. And later on, when we were just like cutting big lines along the top of the dunes and like back at Dune 7, that was pretty awesome. So yeah, riding in the dunes pretty rad. And then from there, day one, I guess in total, we didn't do that much. We were kind of getting familiar with the bikes. Day one, I think we ended up doing 90, 95, maybe 100 kilometers in total. We ended up at Chronicles, where we, had a few beers, started, everyone sort of, got settled in for the day, and, we kind of talked about the highs and lows of riding in the dunes. So I think that was a very fun introductory day, day one.
Yeah, because we also got to crush some miles and actually see some terrain as soon as we left the dune area, where you could spend the whole day riding 5 miles, but and then actually get some dirt roads and see some pretty epic vantage points, and you still have the coast on the side of you. So
yeah, and then we had the age old, everyone's saying like, oh, I thought it was gonna be super hot here. It's not that hot. And I said, well, just wait a minute. Just wait till we go inland. It's gonna get hot. Trust me. Because of course you're at the coast. You have the coastal breeze, and it makes such a difference. But Namibia is no joke. And then once you start going inland, which we did on day 2, when we passed the Spitzkoppe mountain range, we had some of the boys were overheating a little bit.
Yeah, I was legitimately scared. Like day 2, we're just starting to get acquainted and get comfortable, and then there's people laying on the ground of like a concrete bar that we stopped at just to get some water and like take a break, and come to realize people are like starting to like get borderline, overheated, a little bit of heat stroke going on, and it's like we took a proper break. And
and heat stroke, as you know, is no joke. And also, I mean, at the beginning of the trip, we handed out a bunch of electrolytes, encourage everyone to put those in their packs. And heat stroke, once it gets you, it's quite a thing. You don't just bounce back from it immediately either.
Yeah, that was lucky that everyone did kind of
so we
come back and pound some water. And
we came back from that. What is it? So 45 degrees Celsius, what's that in freedom units?
115, I think, or something
115,
like that.
116 Fahrenheit. So and you're wearing all your kit, you're in the beating sun all day, you're riding this wide open desert spaces. There's no trees, there's no shade on day 2, so it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, luckily it cooled down after that, which was a big reason why everybody was fine after being a bit dehydrated to start. So
some water, occasional beer. So that was definitely fun. And I think at sort of day 2, everyone realized, that, okay, this is fun, but it's also serious. Namibia it's hot and it's the real deal. And also that's one of the many reasons that Namibia is one of our most advanced trips, It's not just open to anyone. You can't just show up and you've never been on a motorcycle before. It's definitely, our one of the most, if not the most advanced trip that we offer. And purely for these reasons, covering a lot of distance. We're on the small bikes. We're on the 500s. It's rough terrain, long days. It's hot. A lot of thick sand, a lot of rocky sections. So that's kind of what sets the benchmark on this trip, and makes it more gnarly than the other trips that we offer.
Yeah, one thing I was thinking that's always cool too, just about like even the first day, is when you put in that long day ride and you get acquainted with the bike. And even if you don't do as many, kilometers on that first day, because you got to get on the bike and get used to it and whatever, but then you are out in the middle of nowhere and it's like you don't see anything for a couple hours, and then all of a sudden you arrive to like just the most epic lodge. It's like, so you see like a couple quick signs for like Oasis and Kanikantas Oasis, and it's like, okay, and then you're rolling in, and I did not expect it to be like as big and like luscious, plants and grasses, and there's animals walking around, and
the pool was really good too.
Yeah, it was brand new too, so we got to test that out. It just got built the week before. They're still enhancing the place all the time.
Night 2, after we had that super, super hot day, everyone was borderline heat stroke. We pulled into the Erongo Rocks campsite. Our team had set up everything. Everyone had their own tents. And Namibia at this time, December last year, especially in the Erongo region, it's been almost 2 years since any proper rainfall. And the heavens just opened up after that hot day, and we just, the rain came pouring down. And especially us, the Namibians, we were just like, wow, this is crazy, because, it's really rare to see so much rainfall,
Yeah.
We just had our phones out and we were like, it's raining. And, if you're not from there, you kind of like, it's raining, so what, kind of thing, But especially after a hot day like that. And seeing the rain was really special. And the campsite, it was so dialed. We had the safari tents, and, we had some good old fashioned Namibian braai, had some beers. And, I kind of at this point in the trip, always like the camaraderie starts building. This trip maybe was a bit different because everyone sort of knew each other already. But, you can just see the familiarity, and people start getting a bit more comfortable in the group. And it's always cool because, we really are in the business of like creating cool experiences and bringing cool people together. And it's so many. Benjamin and I are a perfect example. We met on a Moto Safari trip, and we're buddies now. And then a lot of our other friends like Nico, Porter, Forrest, Adam. The list goes on. We started riding together on Moto Safari, and now it's just buddies. And people that met on Moto Safari actually hang out outside of Moto Safari. If they're traveling anywhere in the US or anywhere in the world, actually, because everyone that's done Moto Safari, it's not just people from the US, it's people from Australia, people from the UK, people from Ireland, people from Germany. It's all over the world, and they actually are friends outside of Moto Safari, which is pretty cool to see that,
Yeah, but it's also cool, like, there's a couple people that I had only ridden with once, like Abe, for instance, like on a different, ride last year in BC. And then it's like he brought Tyler, so like, that's still new. Or, I hadn't ridden with everybody. Like Colin had been on a Moto Safari trip, but I wasn't on that one. So, people that know each other and also don't, and like you're, hanging out with old friends and making new ones, but also getting acquainted with people's riding. So after day 2, you kind of know, like, I prefer like when people aren't like right on my tail, because like, I don't know, like sometimes
you don't like boosting them.
I'll do some unpredictable thing, or like, I don't always stay in the 2-track or whatever. So it's like, but you learn that. And I was like, hey Abe, just so you know, dude, I'll probably jump the 2-track on you. So like, that's on you if you're behind me,
give me
but
some
like,
space.
Yeah, you learn that kind of stuff though pretty quick. And then like, who maybe like, I try not to like ride right up on, Chris, for instance, all the time or something, but like it's, you just get like used to it, and, you can start riding like as like a tight knit group, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you kind of find your position in the pack,
Yeah.
And everyone everyone sort of gels. It's like the symphony sort of, takes shape, and everyone knows where they are, and people getting comfortable on the bike. And as always, some people, they might be really good riders, but they're just naturally more cautious, then some people are just more balls to the walls, I guess. And again, this is another thing, obviously, Moto Safari that we take seriously. It's like, I always encourage our riders, like, don't push yourself. We're here to have a good time. If you really, shit goes wrong in Namibia, we have air support, we have airlift, we can pull you out if need be, but at all cost, like we try and avoid any incidents, you know.
Yeah, but you don't want to test your luck.
Yeah, I don't want to test your luck, and sometimes the boys get a bit rambunctious, and I just have to remind them to tap the brakes too, you know. But yeah, it's all in good fun, and we keep it in check, and yeah. But I guess back to what you were saying, everyone sort of finds their groove, and it just flows really well after the second day.
Yeah, a big thing for me always too is like when you, even on the very first day before you even get on the bike, you repack your gear, you get the duffel bag, like everyone's got, the matching set of, nice waterproof duffel. And then it's like, once you leave on the bike and that first night, you get the overnight stuff and you finally take your gear off. But like the next morning you pack that up again and you're on the bike. I'm like, cool, I'm living off the bike. Like this is what I want to do. So like it's like the trip is like kind of began from that point, and from then like your big suitcase that you flew across the world with is back at the first hotel, and you're on the bike, and so you have everything that you need, which is a kind of a unique feeling in itself too.
Yeah, along with all the other stuff you have to deal with in daily life, emails, bills, all that kind of shit. Like the idea is to disconnect and be in the moment and just sort of be present in what you're doing. And, that's why Namibia is so special to me, even having grown up there, just riding a dirt bike in that environment with your buddies, being in this incredibly, incredibly beautiful but harsh landscape, like they call it the land God made in anger, because it's so beautiful but so harsh. And just being out there on a bike, in the middle of nowhere, sometimes you just got to stop and think like, fuck, this is crazy. Look where I'm at, And that's always like, sometimes, that's always special to me, and it's really cool experience, and it doesn't get diluted over time, or the more I do it, I just guess I'll appreciate it more and more.
Yeah, it definitely makes you feel lucky to be able to be on a trip like that.
Yeah, and that kind of, on the morning of day 3 when we went to, the Sand, to go see the Sand Living Museum, which
with the Bushmen?
Yeah, which, if you've never seen Bushmen or interacted with Bushmen, this was like, again, to me, this is something that really like is so incredible. It's so hard to quantify, even explain to someone that hasn't been there. Like you have people that are really just like so pure, so unmolested by society and all this shit that we have to deal with in the modern world. And you just have people that are literally, living off the land, like Opa was explaining to us, like, how he's hunting, and he was doing the demo with a bow and arrow, and, they were singing like they were doing the rainbow dance, and they did the birthday dance for Louisa,
Yeah. No, I could tell ahead of time because you were like excited for that and like almost like giddy to go, and like something that you really, obviously riding motorcycles, that's what we're all there for and what brought everybody together. But it's those little side quests, I guess, that you get to do.
Yeah. And I guess for everyone there, I think the feeling was mutual, like seeing the Bushmen and interacting with them. It's such a special experience, to see how simply they live and how happy they are, and they don't, they were making those necklaces, and how it takes 2 days to make one necklace,
Yeah.
And just the pride that they take in doing the stuff, and they showed us, how they make the fires, and it's, it's incredible, I really can't say enough how special that is to me. And
but you also get to support that, and it was cool learning how, like, it's obviously it's a way of life that's, it's kind of dying off. Like even for them themselves, it's harder and harder to live off the land, and there's, not space for it wherever you live, but it was cool because by them having that, program, basically they're actually teaching their kids, the ways that they've been living for centuries. And so
and it's keeping their traditions alive in a world that's increasingly not allowing for it,
Yeah. It's cool to be able to see that and, see it firsthand and interact with it, but also support that.
Yeah.
And keep it going.
Yeah. I guess, moving on from there, we headed out to go see our friend Sammy.
Yeah, Sammy the giraffe.
Sammy the giraffe. Sammy the giraffe loves motorcycles. So when we arrive at the camp for the night, he'll literally come up to you and he will like tap your helmet with, he'll come down and he really interacts with you. Obviously he's tame. He lives on the premises of the lodge, but even that is such a rad experience if you've never been. I mean, never mind, you've never seen a giraffe in your life, but here you have a giraffe that's literally coming down to you, and like he kind of does this gentle thing where he swings down and like taps his horns against your helmet.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty cool too.
Well, we actually saw wild giraffes,
Just
like
before.
literally riding down the road before that, and kind of got to slow down. And obviously you're not as close to them, and, quiet down, shut off the bikes and get to take that all in. And then it's like, okay, guys, like, I was happy that we got a little heads up on that. Like, hey, just so you know, when we go through this gate to get to where we're staying tonight, there's going to be a giraffe, like, almost every time will come, especially for motorcycles, and don't panic, it's going to be a lot closer interaction than last time. So
yeah,
that was cool. And literally he's like practically stepping over us. And like, I know I was right behind Abe, and he's like actually like, saying hi, and like a giraffe's a big animal. It's come to find out. And it's like them just giving you a little love tap is like, I was glad everyone was wearing their helmet, because he's like literally at the point of headbutting. He
actually popped Abe's visor off, or like the visor bolt, because he swung in and it's just the visor bolt just fell out.
Yeah. So that was definitely cool. And I mean, he literally roadblocked us. So we're all just sitting there and like letting Sammy do his thing and basically say hello. And like, it's like when you get to your house and your dog comes to greet you. But yeah, it's definitely a whole nother
tall
world.
horses.
Yeah.
That was pretty epic. And I guess it's the fine balance, between conservation and, keep animals in the wild. And of course, this is also a contentious issue in every country, but especially Namibia with tourism. I mean, there's no secret that Namibia is trending now, People are going to Namibia. It's not just for motorcycle riding, but for tourism in general. And you have this delicate balance between tourism and conservation. And of course, the spotlight's also on motorcycles, so we always are respectful. If we close to animals, kill your engines, try and have like as minimal impact as you can, because there's not many places left in the world, if any, where you can ride and, you can see giraffes, you can see desert elephants, never mind the rhino, if you're seeing those in the wild, it's special in Namibia, and when we kind of want to be a part of preserving that instead of be a part of eroding that. And I think it's also like, as part of the message we sent a lot throughout the trip, and also with the peripheral message of what we're trying to do at Moto Safari, is we're trying to preserve this, this beautiful nature that we have access to. And it's becoming increasingly difficult, but I still think there's a way to do both, do sustainable tourism and, without degrading the ecosystem kind of thing. So
yeah, there's a way to do it right and do it wrong. And like you touched on, motorcycles sometimes get a bad rap, but definitely with our group and everyone being respectful. I mean, we were on the road too, like when we saw, the first giraffes before we even got to the, reservation. But same thing with Sammy. And it's like, as soon as he let us go and, did his intro, it's like, we went and parked the bikes, and we're again like in this epic oasis with palm trees, and like, there's peacocks walking around, and we're like, okay, cool. So this is where we're staying tonight. Like another epic lodge after just riding through the absolute middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And then you have all the animals like right there in front of you,
Yeah.
This is a pretty cool spot where we stop, and we have like a sort of a outdoor area, like a patio, kind of like a big patio, and you can sit there, and there's a watering hole, and all the animals from the lodge sort of come up there. The giraffes come up there, and
and intermingle with the zebras and the rhinos.
Buffalo, zebra, rhino. Yeah,
come basically 10 feet from the back door of your hotel rooms.
Yeah,
pretty epic.
Yeah, that's also, I mean, pretty special. I'm lucky to have grown up seeing wild animals and being very close to them, but still, every time I see them, it just gives me goosebumps, because it's just they're just so majestic,
Yeah.
And it's really special to be up close and personal with them.
And also getting to do the game drive later that night. It's kind of like, if you're into riding motorcycles, it's like there's a lot of people that don't understand or think that's dangerous and whatever. And it's like you get on in this epic Toyota Land Cruiser and you're riding around and there's elephants and you're like,
yeah,
can I touch this thing right now? I don't know what, you don't know
what the protocol is.
Yeah. And like you either have to ask and it's like, okay, cool. So we're touching elephants. That's pretty epic. And then you get closer and it's like the rhinos come over and you're like, well, can I touch these guys too? And it's like, maybe keep your hands and feet inside the vehicle if you want to keep them.
Yeah.
You're like, so you're learning these things on the fly, which it definitely is pretty cool and keeps you guessing.
Yeah.
It's not a cookie cutter experience, like you get to do every day. That's for sure.
Yeah. And then trying to think on the next day, heading up to Daures, I got the Burning Mountain, Brunberg. That was also a pretty spectacular day. I think we had 1 or 2 punctures on that day, but made quick work of those.
Yeah.
No big deal. Adam dropped his bike a few times.
That's usual.
That's usual, yeah. Yeah, it was pretty hot again too, but I think it was pretty much smooth sailing all the way there. And
also cool because being able to see Daures, I mean, that's like what this trip is kind of built around. At least you've seen the name before, and it, when you get the info pack, you have some pictures of it, and it's actually on the back of the jersey too. So yeah, and you kind of like get to come full circle a little bit. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, and people are either more interested in what the route is and where we are. Some people actually keep track of what, look at where we're at on the map and where we travel every day. And then some people enjoy just
kind of winging it and being wowed each day. Yeah.
You're part of the group. And so it's, come full circle a little bit to like see the mountain and, have that realization. And it's like, then even skipping forward a couple of days when you're riding through the craters.
Yeah.
Is another
the Messam crater. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Daures is, in terms of, mountains around the world, it's not that majestic because it's only 900 meters high. But if you look at it from the top on a map, it's like massive in terms of its like circumference, and the how it was formed, and also when we finally stopped there and we had all the bikes lined up and you can literally had the sun bouncing off the mountain exactly like to its namesake, the Burning Mountain, was pretty spectacular. And we had that epic sunset up there.
Yeah.
Was a cold beer in hand. And
yeah. Was it the first night or the second one? After that, we were at White Lady Lodge, right?
Yeah. So that was a highlight for me. Like also at White Lady Lodge, we pulled up and we saw all these hero, Dakar bikes, like 3 of them parked outside. And I was like, oh my gosh, please don't tell me this is what I think it is. And then we had the whole Hero Dakar team. They were out there doing their practice, and
we got to hang out with before Dakar started. So
yeah, we got to hang out with Ross Branch. I mean, who is obviously legend in his own right, and yeah, meeting him and hanging out with him and his crew was pretty spectacular too.
Yeah, and for me, that was like, okay, if these guys are here,
yeah.
They're here spending the night, but they're here riding motorcycles. This is where they're training. And we knew that from day one on the dunes, but like being able to literally see that and you're like, dang, he's like, yeah, we're literally dialing in the bikes. This is the last chance that we get to ride before we're actually going to be in Saudi. So like, yeah, that was sick.
Yeah, they were literally doing their final tests and final training before like shipping everything off to Saudi. So it was pretty cool. And also to hear their insights on, how they do everything, and also just looking at their bikes in the flesh, looking at the actual race bike standing there and looking at the details and, stuff you always kind of guess about, like where do they keep the water on the bike and, what does this button do, and the road books, they've gone digital now. And especially if you nerd out on that kind of stuff, like, for me, it was so cool seeing those rally bikes in the flesh.
Yeah.
Looking at the tires and what compound are they running, and, it's cool. I nerd out on that, and it was so rad to see that in the flesh. And then we were having beers in the sunset. You can just hear them ripping in the background, still doing testing, like wide open. You just see the plume of dust behind them.
Yeah, I was ready to go back out and ride some more.
Yeah, yeah. Not that we could have kept up, but yeah. So Ross Branch is a great guy, super humble.
That's what I was gonna say too. Like those guys were literally just having a braai and like everyone's sharing food and had dinner later with them. It's like pretty
just
cool.
Shooting the shit. It was really cool. Really great experience. Yeah. So I guess, was it day 6? We were a good friend of ours too, Colin. We came down through that little thick sand section. I was right behind him. I guess we weren't going fast, 30, 40 kilometers per hour max, and he just slid out, landed poorly, and unfortunately snapped his collarbone.
Yeah, that was after a long day, I think.
After a long day, yeah.
60 Ks or something in the sand wash right before that. We were just ripping through.
Yeah.
And then we came out of the sand and jump into the rocks, and it's just like pretty aggressive riding, like slowed down a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah, but he handled it like a champ. I mean, we got him out there via Uis pretty quickly, and he was in the hospital next day, had it all patched up and got a plate in it. And he was definitely in good spirits about it.
Yeah, but even right when it happened, like, everyone obviously had to turn around and like kind of knew something had gone wrong, and then it's like you see, Adam keeping him company underneath the only bit of shade that they can. Like, I don't know the kind of bush that it was, but just covered in thorns, and it's like
Camille Durham.
Yeah, like shows how aggressive the environment is. But Colin was literally a champ, and then it's like Justin got to spring into action, help him out, getting his jersey off and tying up a sling for him, and
Colin was still laughing and making jokes, so because it couldn't have been that bad, That's what I always said to him.
Well, we were surprised. They're like, "You sure, something's broken?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've done this before, whatever."
Yeah, because he'd actually broken it before in the exact same spot.
Yeah, so
yeah.
But that was changed the day a little bit. Obviously, had to shuffle around the bikes and get him into the truck, and as you said, take him to Weiss, and then luckily you knew someone that was local, and he had to hang out at that house for a bit before he could actually get
back to Wolfers Bay.
Yeah, and get a ride to. So it was, I don't know, at least a 4-hour ordeal, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I always say this kind of stuff could have been a lot worse, and I mean, he handled it like a champ. And yeah, just unfortunate, he was right in front of me when he went down. I thought he was fine, but I guess he just landed awkwardly,
Yeah, but for his sake, like we were going super fast. It was super heavy, aggro. So
yeah,
he's getting after it. Don't make it sound too easy.
Yeah, but I mean, when he went down, he was going slowly. We definitely were hauling ass at some point, but so we came down that rocky section, just turned left into that sand wash. It's almost like we were just starting to accelerate, and he just washed out. But yeah, I guess this stuff happens, and he was in good spirits, and it's a collarbone. I'm like 3 broken collarbones, 2 broken collarbones, so it's kind of part and parcel,
Yep. I've also done both of my shoulders, but
he had a great attitude, and so that helps.
Yeah, and then having to figure out, he actually got surgery, got a good doctor and everything, and had surgery instead of taking the plane ride home.
And it's funny that Dr. Skinner, the guy that operated on him, had actually operated on me previously too. So we knew that he was in good hands.
Yeah,
at the time of his surgery.
Yeah, and that just changes the vibe a little bit. You're one person down from the group, and we're having dinner, and it's like he's, we're even checking in, like on WhatsApp, like while we're there. But obviously, at least for 5 minutes, everyone rides a little bit more cautious. After that, the next day, it's But we definitely were still able to have a good time, but we missed him. And it's, I think, after that, there's like one more day before we hit the coast again?
Yeah, so that was on the way to Camp Kipwe. Camp Kipwe, which is like one of our signature lodges. It's a 5-star lodge. And when you roll up in this place after you've been on a dirt bike in the desert,
Yeah,
it's pretty magical, and you get served a ice cold. I don't even know what those things are, like a lemonade spritzer thing or something.
Yeah, it was lemonade,
and a hot towel, and
exactly. You roll up, you're not even off the bike yet, and they're like giving you towels. That was something cool just about Namibia. The entire trip in general, like the hospitality, and people were so humble and so grateful. Like you don't feel like you're not a tourist. You're traveling through the country, but like. If we weren't there, people wouldn't be working, for where we were going. It's like you're supporting this economy, and it's like it's pretty epic. But people are just cool, also just like down to shoot the shit, you know, whether it's your wait staff or like people in, you know, shops and things. And yeah, that was a good one too, because like you were up on top of the hill, like when we went up to the sunset.
Oh, the sunset spot, yeah.
But then all of a sudden you see people that are like, you know, walking across the valley, just like seemingly into the middle of nowhere.
Walking in this like vastness, and you're thinking like, where the hell is this guy going?
Yeah.
And when, you know, the one day the next day actually, just before we hit the Messam crater, we saw, what was her name again? Joanna. And she was just walking like in the middle of this like vast span of nothing.
Yeah.
I remember we stopped and we gave her water and we gave her some food, and I just asked her, you know, I said, Joanna, wat doen jy, waarheen is jou pad? You know, what are you doing in the middle of nowhere? And her response was like so pure and beautiful. She said, no, I'm just walking and looking at the animals, you know. And I was just like, fuck, that's crazy, you know. And it's hard to quantify if you're not there, but you've been riding for like over 100 miles, there's nothing there, and then all of a sudden there's this little old lady like just walking by herself.
Yeah, it's like majestic. It's like it looks like a movie. Like it doesn't seem real, and you're like, is that a person? And as you get closer, and we like kept our distance, you know, so as not to like ride directly up to her,
not
but
to
then
startle her or anything.
Yeah, and then let her kind of come over to us, and like you said, hooked her up with some water, and actually gave her like one of the sandwiches. We hadn't had lunch yet. So when the truck caught up.
Yeah, and she was so grateful, you know, and just like mind blowing to me that she could just, in this harsh environment in the middle of nowhere, and just be walking happily, like she's not distressed. Or, you know, if you put someone from the Western world, I mean, granted, myself included, you put me in this like environment in the middle of nowhere with no like life support or water or anything, you know, I wouldn't survive, you know.
But she said she was living, like she was mining and was down like not too far from there, living in like, I think, you know, a home built shack, but with a hand dug well with two other people. And you're like, okay, then it makes more sense. She's like trying to get a little bit of alone time, like living in close quarters with two other people.
Living with two other people in the middle of nowhere, like she needs a break from them, you know. Yeah, but that was so epic, and that's just like such a quintessentially Namibian thing too, you know, like you don't see that anywhere else in the world, and just like the vastness of Namibia just blows my mind every time, you know.
It's true. It's massive.
It's massive, and you can just go like hundreds of miles. You don't see a soul. It's epic, you know. Yeah,
that was
Joanna.
right before the Mesam crater.
Yeah, and then the Mesam crater in itself is very special. I mean, I'm not a geologist by any means, but Mesam crater is a crater that was formed like 130 million years ago, and it's like 18 kilometers across, and it's this like sort of granite kind of amphitheater with this gray, almost lunar type soil, and we're just like blasting through there like full speed.
Yeah, when we got into it, you know, like we'd been riding, and you get, you know, used to the road and the gravel, although the changing environment is pretty common. But, and then it's like, okay, we're inside this crater, but at first it didn't really feel like anything, but then you actually start riding across it, and like it definitely had a feeling to it, and it was like you're riding across the moon pretty much.
Yeah, it's like a real like lunar landscape.
Yeah.
Pretty wild. And even it's like 18 kilometers across, you still somehow feel at all times you're in this like amphitheater somehow, you know, because if you look to the horizon, you can see the edges of the bowl. And I mean, I call it the bowl, but the edges is just a mountain range essentially, you know, and you're in this like prehistoric crater.
Yeah, and that was wild. I guess, right before we hit the coast, which being at the coast was a cool thing for me, like something that you hear about in Namibia is like surfing, and it's, you know, it's kind of this like majestic, you know, place that like people don't even really know, but you hear about on, you know, websites or whatever. And growing up, like I knew of Namibia for that reason, but then when you actually get to go there, and there's we were on the coast a couple days, like no like really epic waves to be able to really see, but we get definitely a feel for it. There's some pretty decent ones, you know, but right before actually getting to ride across the beach, which is epic.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's sort of similar to the dunes. Like if you've never ridden on the beach before on a dirt bike, that's pretty cool too, you know? So
Yeah.
we were just like mobbing down the beach, and you have like hundreds and hundreds of miles of beachfront, and you can just have at it, you know?
There aren't that many places in the world where you're even able to do that. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And also like again, feeling the sort of the different contrast of Namibia. I also think it's a very harsh land, but it's also like a land of contrast, you know, where you're in the desert environment, and then you have the dunes like literally touching the sand, and then next thing you know, the dunes touching the sand, the dunes touching the water, touching the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, which is such a cold and harsh environment, and you have the hot desert.
Crazy, because we actually bundled up, and like I've been carrying a jacket for the entire trip.
Yeah.
And then it's like the last day I even second guessed it in the morning and then put it on. I was glad I did.
Yeah. And then also getting rain at the time of year, December, when we were there in the middle of this massive drought, this year-long drought. And it's just such a land of contrast, you know, and that just also adds to the appeal. And you have the Atlantic Ocean, which is this cold, massive body, and then the whole inland and the whole desert, you know, the Welwitschia, which is, you know, they get up to 3,000-4,000, if not more, years old. And they're just feeding off the ocean mist, and everything that's living in the desert, from the beetles and everything, is just, they survive off the ocean mist, you know?
Yeah. And a lot of those were, even because the drought's been so bad, we're definitely starting to feel it.
Yeah.
After literally thousands of years, which is pretty wild.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, staying at Cape Cross, you know, this is sort of, we start winding down. This is sort of day 8, you know, closer to the end of the trip, day 8, day 9. And then, you know, seeing if you've never seen a Cape fur or Cape seal colony before.
Yeah, that was an experience for sure.
Yeah, and that in itself is pretty gnarly, because you have like literally no exaggeration, like hundreds of thousands of seals.
Yeah.
And the noise and the smell of these seals is just like so overwhelming.
Yeah. You learn a lot about the circle of life just in one afternoon there, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, don't quote me on the exact number, but I think they consume something like, was it between 16 and 20 kilograms of fish per day per seal, or something outlandish like that?
Yeah, or like 20 times the amount in one day that the fishing, commercial fishing community takes all year or something.
Yeah. And that spot there, actually, at Cape Cross, is also a really good wave, but ironically, you can't surf it. You can, but you don't want to surf between those seals.
There's so many. Yeah, there was one like really epic left point break, actually, that I woke up as usual at like 4:00 in the morning, like ready to go. So I went for a nice walk on the beach, and actually found a couple of like sick point breaks that were just right there.
Yeah, and there have actually been some seal attacks, because we were just 2 weeks after, when I stayed on in Namibia, we were surfing, and I mean not at Cape Cross, but they were telling us, there was this girl, she was surfing with us, and she got attacked by a seal.
While in the water?
Yeah, while in the water. And because the seals are just like, they're hungry, you know, there's not enough food in the water, and there's not enough fish. And a few years ago, there was actually quite an aggressive seal attack where a guy lost like half of his face, you know? And that's quite uncommon for seals to attack surfers, but it happens, you know?
Yeah, well, you can tell when there's thousands of them.
Yeah, and you know, the big male seal, and those things are pretty big, you know? And yeah, seeing them up close is pretty spectacular too.
Yep. Started to get a little bittersweet for me at that point, because you know that the end is coming. You're like riding back to hand in the bike, and I'm like...
Yeah, and also, I mean, it was also pretty spectacular. We didn't even touch on that. As we were riding through the riverbeds, you know, we saw the wild elephants.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see that, you know, you don't see that riding on a motorcycle. Wild elephants, you know, desert elephants. Some of the, you know, rarest animals in the world, some of the most elusive animals. And, you know, we got to see those too, which was pretty special.
Yeah, and even being able to like interact with them and see how they interpret us on the motorcycles. It's not something that the elephants get to see every day either, but they're literally in their natural habitat.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess, you know, last day was fun too. You know, we had our last little play in the dunes. I think at this point, everyone, you know, coming down heading south again, towards Swakopmund and Walvis Bay, everyone's a bit more confident and comfortable on the bike. So I think the last day of dunes was definitely a different experience than the first day of dunes.
Yeah, that was a highlight for me.
Except for Adam again,
Yeah, but he was done by that point. But I was like ready to ride the dunes on the last day, and just psyched that we actually got to go through there again. Because then you're well acquainted with the motorcycle, and
yeah, that was pretty cool, the last day of the dunes. And yeah, I mean, all in all, I think I love all the trips that we do, but Namibia really is a special one to me, and I think it's an honor for me to be able to share that with my friends, and share that with people that come on Moto Safari, and sort of share Namibia, because it really is a special country, and I find that coming on a trip like this is obviously a very personal experience for everyone, but everyone has their own takeaways, and everyone, similar to in life, everyone's on their own journey, but everyone experiences something like this in a different way, And I think it's kind of cool to be able to facilitate that for people and say, like, yeah, man, come check it out, and we'll take care of you. We'll take you along the way and show you what we can offer, in Namibia.
But it's a different experience for everyone, or everyone's coming from a different place and maybe has different reasons. And like, I think everyone has to work pretty hard to be able to go on those trips. And
yeah,
it's a big decision to be able to invest even the amount of time, let alone money, you know, like taking a week off of work or whatever it is. But I would be pretty confident that everyone, having been people that come back on multiple trips, but everyone is definitely happy with, the fact that they decided to go on the trip and spend the time and the investment to be able to do so, and, have the experience together, but also for themselves, and get to have a trip like that.
Yeah, and I think we're living in not that that's a new thing, but we live in a very materialistic world, and, we kind of, a lot of people benchmark their worth with like getting things and buying things, but I think it's also like a way, and that's kind of something we also trying to promote, is like invest in yourself by like invest in experiences, instead of, I don't know, buying a new watch for your birthday or for your husband or something. Come on a motorcycle trip, it's not a tangible thing that you can look at in your drawer for the next 30 years, but the memories you make and the people you meet is kind of like, can't put a price on that.
Yeah, and that's whether you go to Costa Rica or you go to BC or
India or Baja, South Africa.
But that's something that I know Adam says, he's like, especially every time he goes to, anywhere in Africa, it's like you realize just how much stuff you have and like what matters. And he's like, man, I'm not gonna, think the same when I'm standing in line at Starbucks next week, like, waiting to get a coffee, and you just like puts everything into perspective. So
yeah, because you see like people that actually have so little, but they're so happy,
Yeah,
they're like so content. And then I find we have everything, but we still unhappy, in living in the Western, in the modern, like first world,
Totally.
You have access to absolutely anything that you need. All your basic human rights are met, and you have everything that you need, but we still find room to complain about our lives or the daily grind or whatever it is. And then you have, people in Africa or people in India or wherever that have so little, but, they're just stoked,
Definitely. Yeah. That's something that I felt on every trip for sure.
So also, being exposed to that perspective kind of also, for me personally, and I guess for everyone else too, kind of keeps you in check with, your gratitude and be grateful for what you have, kind of thing,
Yep. That's all I really want, is my motorcycle and my bag of bag of stuff that I can carry with me. It's like keep things pretty simple.
Yeah. So it is about riding motorcycle, and it is about connecting like-minded people, but it's not just riding motorcycles. It's also like there's something more to it,
Speak for yourself, dude. I just want to ride motorcycles.
Yeah, but
you're right.
Yeah,
you do have a unique experience, and everybody takes away from it. And the other cool thing, like we didn't even talk about, is just like getting better at riding. Oftentimes, on the trip, you always like connect with someone, whether it's Byron or it's Forrest, and it's like people that are some of the top riders in the world that are
Literally.
going on the trip, and you're just, like being able to see Ross when we were at White Lady Lodge, but like, that was just a total bonus. He wasn't with us on the tour, but, being able to get some pointers or at the end of the day, like actually run through some drills, and that makes a huge difference. Like even for someone like me that rides a lot, it's like on one day in 30 minutes, like a couple of tips, and I'm like, whoa, that makes a big difference. And then I put them into play the next day.
Yeah.
And you definitely can feel it.
Yeah. And then maybe that's also something important for our viewers, is that, South Africa trip, we have Byron, who's won the GS trophy 2 times. And yeah, he's great rider. He comes along on our trips and in his very own, like, non-evasive way, gives pointers. At the end of the day, we'll stop on a field and have a few beers, do some static drills. And like you say, that experience is so valuable. And even for us, I mean, we're decent riders, but having those tips and having those sort of insight from someone that's, so much better and that knows what they're doing is like so valuable to keep learning. And even in Costa Rica, we had, of course, Forrest and Nickel Padgett. I mean, these guys are like literally Baja champions, and riding with them, you just see how they do things, and
you get them on a KLR 650 and they're still ripping around, but it's a little bit different than riding a 450 or 500 dirt bike.
And that's also really cool to be exposed to that, and also to, sometimes as simple as seeing like the gear that they run or like their opinions on stuff, and like, it's insight, and it's cool to have that insight. And, they have obviously their own experience in Baja, and these guys have done hundreds of hours of, race miles at race pace, so when they give you their insight on something, like, you listen,
Yeah, it's invaluable for sure.
Yeah, it's invaluable, and especially if you're in that mindset of like improving yourself and learning more about a sport or a discipline that you care about, it's cool to be sort of exposed to that kind of, knowledge. And that's something cool about Moto Safari too, is that we always have sort of, I don't know what the correct word is, like influential riders or good riders that have like experience to shit,
Yeah, not influencers, but
yeah,
but top.
I mean, it's cool to have
riders.
It's cool to have a lot of followers on Instagram, but I mean, it's more than that, like these guys are,
Yeah, but that's also then after the trip, you're connected with them.
Yeah,
and you're literally friends after you've lived, in close quarters and ridden with someone for 10 days or.
I mean, after you met Forrest on our Costa Rica trip, I think it was. I mean,
yeah,
you shadowed them. I mean, you helped them on their whole Baja race effort, and
yeah,
I mean, that was a pretty cool experience for you too.
Got to go to multiple Baja races after that and drive a chase vehicle and set up pits, and get to also just see how it's done with with Forrest and with Nick and that whole group. That like that would have never happened if I hadn't have gone on the first, Moto Safari trip.
Yeah. So it really is about also, I mean, this is another point we can touch on, is like, it's connecting people, like when Forrest and Harry and, they did their whole, The Desert Said Dance movie, which also focused on the Baja race effort. That was also, that idea was conceptualized around the campfire on a Moto Safari in South Africa when Harry and Forrest were there. And another friend of mine, Jesse, he comes like from the cannabis world, and he was one of the founder of Charlotte's Web, which was a early stages during the cannabis legalization process and everything. So they happened to do very well financially, and then when Forrest and Harry were talking about this film they want to make about the race effort, Jesse piped up and said, well, I can get involved in that. And he helped with financing, and in the end, just through that connection around the campfire, they became friends and they made this epic movie together,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really about, I think that's something that's unique to the moto community anyway, is that people sort of help each other and people work together and build relationships and build connections like that. But I feel like in Moto Safari, I mean, I've met like some of the best people that I know, the best friends that I have.
Thanks, man.
Pleasure. I've, and made the most connections, just like through facilitating these trips and bringing like like-minded people with, you know?
Yeah,
And
agreed.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah, so what trip's coming up next?
Yeah, so the next trip we have coming up is the Ballad of Baboon Valley, which is our South Africa trip. So that's a 12-day journey through South Africa. We start and end in Cape Town. And it's called the Ballad of Baboon Valley because we traverse the Baviaanskloof, which sort of borders the Eastern and Western Cape. And you've actually been through there before.
Yeah.
It's pretty epic. You know, you can see a lot of baboons, leopards, you know, depending on the time of year, but there's a lot of wildlife in that actual valley. And that's pretty cool. And then we also do the stargazing in Sutherland. We sleep in the caves in Makadat. We see
Don't give it all away.
Yeah, we see a lot of wildlife too. Lots and lots of epic riding. So along the garden route. So this is sort of also one of our signature journeys, you know, the South Africa journey, and then, you know, St. Francis and the whole Eastern Cape.
Yeah, that's an epic one for sure.
Yeah, that's close to 3,000 kilometers over 12 days. So it's an adventure bike trip. So we're on the big bikes. We're in the 1300 GSs,
but also go to places where most people wouldn't take those bikes, and people are like, "You're going where?" And
like, you're going into the hell with those bikes. Like, yeah, easy, man. No big deal.
So it's definitely, everyone is a different experience. You'll get someone new to rail their wheel into a rock or something, and then just things that you have to deal with along the way.
Yeah, like Patrick bent his rim.
I wasn't gonna say it for old Pat, but
yeah. So that's all part of the adventure, you know. And we're obviously equipped to deal with anything. You know, we've been doing this for 10 years. You know, we've seen a thing or two, and obviously, touch wood, we've never had any serious incidents. And, you know, we like to keep it that way and, you know, facilitate a good time and obviously get rowdy, but be safe at the same time and make sure everyone has a good experience and a good takeaway. And like I said, 90% of people that come on our trips are repeat customers, you know. They've been on one trip, they want to know what the next one is, and they want to do it all over again, you know.
Yeah, I'm not the only one.
I think you're the perfect example. Like, most of the people that have been on the trips, they do them all, you know. Kind of asking like, okay, what's next?
If I'm gonna do one trip, one thing a year, it's like Moto Safari is definitely the top of the list, without a doubt.
Yeah. So, yeah, and you know, thanks to you and thanks to everyone that keeps coming back. It kind of helps us know that we're doing the right thing and we're facilitating cool experiences and people enjoy what we do. And yeah, that's all the positive affirmation we need to keep doing it. So yeah, guys, if you know, if there's anything you want to know about our trips, if anything you want to know about Moto Safari, if there's anything you know about the Namibia trip in general, you know, drop us a comment, subscribe, you know, let us know in our socials, follow our Instagram at Moto Safari. And we're always happy to interact with you guys, and, you know, no question goes unanswered. And yeah, we hope to see you on a trip one of these days. And yeah, thank you for your time, and we'll be back soon with another series. Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.